Zhao. Welcome to our second Creative Professionals China Chat with Northwest China Council. My name is Mara Youngren-Brown, and I'll be introducing our event today. Helping coordinate and produce this event is John Wong, our Executive Director. The Northwest China Council is an educational nonprofit based in Portland, Oregon, founded in 1980 from a grant from the Asia Society in New York to promote greater cultural understanding between the US and China. We offer Mandarin Chinese lessons online, China chats, and other events as well. We hope to begin in-person events as the pandemic subsides, so stay tuned for news about that. To learn more about our organization and to keep track of events we sponsor and are involved with, visit us on the web at nwchina.org. You can also find links to register for future China chats, and you can view recordings of previous China chats on our website. Before I introduce today's guest, I wanted to let you know there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you would like to ask a question, please do so by entering it in the QA function of Zoom, and I will read them to Jingzi during our Q&A session. We will close our event today with a few words from our president, Jim Mockford. With that, let me introduce today's speaker. We are very pleased to welcome Jingzi Zhao. Jingzi Zhao grew up in Shanghai, lived and worked in 4 continents, and held positions as a senior management consultant at Capgemini and a technology program manager at JPMorgan Chase before coming to Oregon and establishing Jingzi Photography in 2006. Her work has been featured in The Oregonian, Willamette Week, and Oregon Bride magazine. She is the recipient of multiple project grants from the Regional Arts and Culture Council and is the creator of the Fuse Project, a collaborative dance photography project in which she photographs dancers on location in Portland at historic landmarks, neighborhoods, and representative businesses around the city. Most recently, Jingzi was awarded first place at the 2021-2022 Pas de Deux dance photography competition in the studio category, and she'll be sharing some of her work with us today. It's an honor to have her here today, and with that, the floor is yours, Jingzi. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Mara, for the introduction. I hope everyone can hear me fine. If you have trouble hearing me or seeing my screen, send a message to the chat and then so that they can alert me. Let me see. All right, I'm supposed to talk about myself, and so I'm just going to do a quick introduction about me and my story, how I got to this, how I got here. And you already know from the introduction that I'm from China. And so in 1997, I came to the United States for my graduate school. I went to DePaul and got my business degree. So I got an MBA in international marketing and finance. After graduation, I was lucky enough to work for a consulting firm called Capgemini and Ernst & Young for some years, and then later the bank JPMorgan Chase. During the last, I would say, a year or two of my corporate career, I was feeling not quite right. I was very busy. I was traveling internationally. My last project was in London. We stayed there for half a year, so it was great. But I just feel like that was not me. Up to that point, I think I accomplished what my parents expect me to accomplish. But I just feel like there's something more I want to do and something very different. So at that time I was reading that book. I think the title is What Should I Do With My Life? Something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but I remember the book has a cover. It's a red. I'm a very visual person, so I just remember it's a red covered book. It was one of the bestsellers at that time. So I was reading that book, and then I got encouraged to think about different direction. And at the same time, I also started to dance. I realized that I actually really loved dancing, but then I was already an adult and it's too late to do anything real, like professionally. But I started dancing like salsa and then later on tango. I met tango, and then that's it. I also started taking photography lessons at night at the Chicago Photography Center. So these two night hobbies, kept me really busy. And also in a way, it kind of made me more in touch with like my feelings. So in 2004, I made a decision in 2004. I quit my job and then I moved to this country. If you guys recognize the flag, that is Argentina. So while I lived in Argentina, I danced tango, and also I took photography. I took photography, I would say, lessons for about half a year. It was pretty difficult to understand at first because at that time, when I first, arrived in Argentina, the only things I know how to say are like hola and donde está el baño? Basically, is asking for where's the bathroom. So going to photography class in full Spanish was difficult. But then just in a few days, I realized, all the jargons, they're the same. They keep repeating the exposure, exposición, and apertura, that's for the aperture. Once you hear that over and over again, you know what it meant. So that's actually pretty fun. Right now I think back about it, it's kind of an adventure for me. After I took photography, classes for half years in a foreign language, So when I moved back to the States in 2005, I thought I could give photography a try, and I did. And in the first few years, I was also doing consulting on the side, just to make sure that, I can sustain myself. I didn't go into dance photography right away because at the time, and that never occurred to me. I was doing weddings and portraits. So by the second time we moved, I lived in Argentina, twice. So the second time we moved there, I moved there with my husband and my daughter. At that time, I took a stage photography workshop. So in that workshop, it's a seminar actually. So in the seminar, we got a chance to photograph stage production all over the place in Buenos Aires. There's a play, there's a contemporary ballet, and so it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. So that's basically started, basically planted seeds in me. That stage photography workshop in Buenos Aires. After I moved back to States for the second time, I still didn't do anything right away in terms of dance photography. Then around, I would say 2014, 2015, I read another book. That's a picture book, it's a photo book. It's called Dancers Among Us. It's by a New York dance photographer, Jordan Matter. This time, remember the name. So if you look it up, those photographs are fantastic. And what's making it really fun is it's not about photos like on stage. Actually, it's the photos off stage in daily life, in surroundings, in our daily surroundings, in front of a store, near the subway station, in the subway, waiting for trains, So I found that really interesting. And then that inspired my first dance photography project, which took me a year to complete. It's called Fuse Poland Dance Portrait. I'm going to show you the work just in a bit. So that is that. And then after the Fuse project, about the same time, started working with lots of local dance company, photographing rehearsals. But it's not until, I would say, 2019, I started to shift the main focus of my work towards dance. So, which is also happened to be a bad timing, because you know what happened in 2020, right? Up till now, we still have it, which is the pandemic. But yeah, so starting from 2019 is that it started to focus mostly on dance photography. So right now, I would say 80% of my photography activity is about dance. And then the other 20% is about everything else, editorials, portraits, things like that. Now I'm going to show you, if I can manage to do the screen correctly. I'm going to show you the first work, which is the Fuse, the first slideshow, which is the Fuse Poland Dance project. Okay, so the last picture stop at my exhibition. I had a show. I had two shows. The first show was at the Monoma Art Center, and then that's the picture you see right now. That's me. The second to the right, left, depending on how you look at it, and then with the dancers, with some of the dancers in my photographs. So the project took. Actually, yeah, exactly 12 months to complete. And what's difficult about that project is because I was photographing dancers in basically neighborhood hangouts, on location, in shops. So we need to ask access to the business, different kind of business. At the beginning of the project, I wasn't sure how to do it. I would send an email to business, hey, I would like to take photograph, I would like to photograph dancers in your coffee shop. What do you think? And of course I got rejection, So then I got better in terms of how I write emails. And also, thankfully, I got a grant and from RAC, Regional Arts and Cultural Council. So that made my project a lot more legit. And I would go and I would talk about my projects and then say that, oh, this project sponsored by Regional Arts and Cultural Council, right? It is to promote Portland, promote our culture, our lifestyle. So that was a RAC sponsorship, and it was how 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 I wrote it differently, how I approach people differently. And I was able to get access to quite a few different venues. So you can see from the slideshow that some of the vintage shops, some of the like breweries, and then we have a coffee shop as well. And I want to show one picture, I think. So if you notice that, at least at that time, I'm sure pretty much right now also the same, there are lots of people, they actually have their little they have a chicken coop in their backyard. I also know people, they have goats in their backyard. So I was thinking, that's something very Poland. So I wanted to photograph, have a photograph of dancers, to tell that story. So thankfully, I have an artist friend. She's a painter. She actually has a kid, the chicken coop. You see that the white little structure behind the dancer. So she said, you can photograph it in my backyard. So that's great. We went, and her daughter is also because those roosters, they know her daughter. They don't know the dancer. So we actually went there twice. The first time to establish rapport with the roosters. Animals are very unpredictable. We don't know whether they will perform or not for the shots. So the second time, second time was real. We took a bunch of different shots, and also to just make it real. What normally you would do around rooster, you feed them, right? So that's what we were doing. We didn't try to do something really crazy or athletic. I'm not going to make the dancers jump here, because then if the dancer jump, the rooster will be also scared. They will be flying away. So that won't work. So this is the picture. I think it is something, it's a good example. I have always have to find a balance between the athleticism and the story. So I know that the dancers could do a lot more. That dancer, she can do a lot more, but then would that fit the story though? Right. So that's that story. And then, okay, if you notice that in Poland, we have this, in the summer, we have those refurbished pianos all around Poland. And that is quite a sight. And then everyone can play these pianos. So that year, we have this porcupine shaped vintage piano right in front of the Poland Art Museum. Then I have her, she is an acrobat, actually. That's why she can play the piano just with one hand. Let's see. And then, oh, let's see here. What is the other one? Okay, so do you guys recognize this venue, which is the Crystal Ballroom? And this is the 80s night. And so we want to show, I have lots of photos during the day. I was like, okay, we wanted to show something about a nightlife. So I contact the Crystal Ballroom, and actually that night is the 80s video attack. That's what the event organizer's name. So I contact them, and they say, yeah, just come over, So we got in with the dancers, and then it's really cool that they have the really colorful lights in the background. But I have to tell you, this light is not the available light there. It's not their neon light. That's the light that I added. So there are two lights, one light's on the dancer, the other light's on the side, just to accentuate the colorful, lights in the background. So we have. So that is that. Okay, this one. So Poland is a very green city, and we are very conscious about reuse. So I contact a rebuilding center, and they are so supportive. They just embrace the idea right away. So we went there and took a photo. These two are also, they are also acrobats. So when I worked on this project, it was my definition for dancer is anyone like use their body to express ideas, you know. So that's why there are quite a few acrobats also in this project working with me. This is your reviewing center, and then if you know, here there's even like the creative use, you know, something like that. They're looking for, I guess, a window frame, so things like that. So that's the Fuse project. I have to say that I really enjoy producing the whole work. That gave me lots of fun. And then I met lots of wonderful dancers. This project involved around 50 dancers from 14 different organizations, big or small. Some organizations, like, you know, they're just two, like they're very small companies too. And some are much bigger, like OBT, Portland Ballet, Polaris. So, and also in terms of local business, where we worked with 13 local businesses. That is that. And now I'm going to show you. So that's a project I did in 2015, 2016. Now I'm going to show you the work that I did in the last 2 years, a representative, you know, collection of my work in the last 2 years. Most of them actually were done during the pandemic. Okay, so I'm going to start a slideshow again. It will take just another few minutes. No, a few seconds to load. I hope. Yes. I represented a body of work that I created in the last 2 years, and most of them were done during the pandemic. And it's, how should I say that? So, for example, when I approached this dancer, Tom Baker, at the time he danced with Oregon Ballet Theater. I think we worked on this photo shoot in the summer 2020. If you remember that we had a lockdown starting March. So during from March to July, full month, there was no dancing for them. They had a Zoom class, a Zoom bar class online, but that's very different. So like at the end of photo shoot, he was telling me that he said, Jingzi, this is the most time I danced, this is the first time I really jumped ever since the pandemic. And then he said, I feel like a dancer again. This is great. And yeah, so it's the last 2 years, I would say it's really, it's pretty dark time for performers because they were being deprived of access to the stage, being able to perform on stage. They could not, not until the last fall, we started to have performance again. So it was really hard. Yeah. Also, this photo also was taken during the pandemic. I think this shot, and then it was just a month later from the other shot I just showed you. Same thing. The dancer was saying to me that, oh my God, this is the most dance that I've done since the shutdown. And let's see, is there anything else I wanted to highlight? This photograph was from last summer. It was a very exciting trip. I went to Mexico City with a group of dancers. They're from the company called local contemporary dance company called Push Fold. So they their piece, which is called Early, was selected to be performing in International Contemporary Dance Festival in Mexico City. So they want me to go with them. And then we went. This is the photograph that we took after their rehearsal. After they were actually super exhausted. Yeah, they had a 3-hour dress rehearsal, and they were performing the next day, very exhausted. But then we were at this venue with beautiful, beautiful, just modern structure. And then I was like, let's do something. And they were very nice. And no matter how tired they were, they put themselves together. So we made some pictures. And also I was photographing, while I was photographing that, I think when I took this photo was okay, but earlier I was photographing from more like a higher angle, and I got a security people came over, talked to me, saying, no, you can, you just cannot sit here, you will fall down. And so yeah, that was fun. Then you see these are the shots that won the categories in the most recent Partido photo competition. Yeah, so that's that. I think, Laura, do you want to, I don't know if people have questions so far at this point? Or
Yeah.
should I keep talking?
Would you like to open it up to questions now at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. We did get one question, and they an attendee was wondering, do you offer photography classes?
Not at this moment. Yeah, not at this moment, but maybe in the future.
Okay, great, thank you. We don't have any questions currently. Jim, do you have a question?
Yeah, excuse me, I did not put mine in the chat line because, first of all, I want to thank you, Jingzi, for your talk today and everyone for attending. I know there's dancers among us, among the people attending today. I recognize some names affiliated with dance studios in Portland. But I felt like I was attending a live performance just by watching your photography, your slideshow, which was really delightful. I know from people that I know in dance world, the pandemic was really hard for them to not be able to go on stage and perform. And I myself only went to one show, the Nutcracker, during the pandemic. You know, so I really look forward to the chance to get back to a project that involves being out in the world, whether it's outside or at a dance performance indoors. And maybe China Council will pursue that during the next year, where we can follow up with you on some advice about which of these dancers can we go see and where are they performing? Not necessarily just ballet, but any type of dance, because Portland has a really remarkable community of people that are involved in dance. And so this is a long way to get to my question, but my question is, are you planning, or even in the preliminary area of thinking about a Fuse 2 of some type over the next year? And how long would it take? And you know, what are your thoughts about doing another Fuse? Because I really enjoyed that project.
I do have a project in mind. It's probably not something like Fuse. It's I would say it's really in infant, you know, stage. It's more on my mind than anything. I wanted to photograph, documenting all kinds of ethnic dance that's available in Portland. So because when I in the Chinese New Year, you know, there's a Chinese New Year celebration, and then this year there was a gala at the Keller Auditorium, which is sponsored by I don't know what exactly the organization, but I know that Intel was involved. Intel China group, or Chinese group, was involved as well. And in the gala, there was this really beautiful, vibrant, like Mexican, like a dance company, dance crew performance. I just loved it. And then I realized, wow, we have lots of different dances, not in terms of the mainstream, like the ballet dance or modern dance, but lots of ethnic dance that people should know about. So that's something I have been thinking.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I think there is another question that came up in the chat line, Mara.
Yeah, we have two questions kind of with, I guess, an international angle, but Alexa Byers would like to know, how do you get word out internationally about your services?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if if right now my reputation extends internationally or not, because when I went to the International Dance Festival to photograph, that's by invitation. I got invitation from the local company here, so it's not like someone internationally found out about me. I would love to though.
Well, yeah. This is step one, because we do have people that join us from time to time that have international connections. And okay, what you do is make Portland look so fantastic through your photographs that even if there are a lot of problems today in Portland that need to be resolved, people know there's some light at the end of the tunnel, because maybe they can come here and see something that you've introduced to the world about Portland's artistic community, which is still around. They're still making their way through COVID and the end of the pandemic now, and there's a ways to go. But a couple of your photos in any type of publication that has international viewers really will do a lot to help Portland and the dance community here. You know,
thank you.
Find an audience beyond just the local audience. So this video will be on YouTube. We'll share it with people, and I think there's going to be a step 2 to introducing your work to the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you said there's another question? You said 2 questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as a follow-up to Alexa's question, the one you just answered, they said we can help you with that grant money. just so you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the next question I have is from Jeffrey Kinkley. He says, I love these pictures. Amazing you were able to make them in these difficult times. And then the international angle to this question is, are your works available and commented on in China specifically?
So right now, I have not been back to China ever since for 3 years, 4 years. Yeah. Typically my folks actually visited me every year before pandemic. They were not able to come here either for the obvious reason. So, but in general, I would say, most of the time I go back home. It's very short. It's just a couple weeks, and then I spend most of the time just with family. I don't do, yeah. I would say I don't think I even worked. No, yeah. So again, back to the international perspective, it's mostly in the United States.
Great, thank you for answering that. I have another question, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but Tian Chu Lo. And they ask, do you ever rely on through the lens metering when using strobes, or are you always manual?
When I work with strobe lights, my camera setting is always on manual. That way I have a lot more control. If that's what you're asking for, because the meter, I also use a light meter as well. So when you work with strobe, you can use the light meter. And then nowadays you can get away by shooting and then look at the photos, on your computer, because every time I shoot in studio, I tethered. So I can see instantly, right after the shot, I can see instantly how that looks like in terms of exposure wise. So you could get away without a light meter. For me, just light meter provide a starting point. And also, after you do that for a while, you kind of know, if I go into a studio, that I know that, okay, with this distance, I kind of know what is my starting point for the strobe light is. So I go from that, then I tweak from it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So we are waiting on some more questions from the audience, but in the meantime, just to kind of continue with this question and answer session, I would love to get a more in-depth answer about where your inspiration for your photos comes from. I know you like to tell a story with your photos, but yeah, what inspires you?
So I always like stories, and I think that's probably from the days when I first doing photography. I wasn't doing dance photography. I was photographing weddings. But even when I was photographing weddings, most of my photograph wasn't about bride and groom posing for me. It's about how the day unfolds. So to me, the story is the most interesting aspect. And when I photograph dance, it depends, because if it's client work, usually we need to produce something very specific and very precise. If it's dancer's audition shot, dance portfolio, that's very specific, very precise. It's to showcase their lines, their techniques. But then for my personal work, personal dance photography work, I wouldn't want the shape to be the main focus. I would say they are the means to the end, but they're not the end. So I want people look at the photographs. I want them to feel something, whether they feel something emotionally or then make them think about something. That's what I'm trying to achieve, not just the shape. And and actually, even when I was photographing, I actually tell this, when I was telling the dancers what I want, because I get to work with lots of fantastic dancers. But when in the studio, it's not like there's so many things they can do. There's so many movements they can make. And we cannot just look at each other. Okay, what do you want? You know, I have to give them some direction, some context, some parameters so they can work with. So for example, this picture, I don't know if I'm still sharing the screen or not. This picture of this is the winning shot. I was telling Brian and Xuan, they're the principals at Oregon Ballet Theater. Before we took that shot, I was saying that imagining you guys are animals, and then imagining, because it's pariru, you know, how we can feel the frame as to think about high and low. And so I think you are eagle and rabbit. And so one is very dominant and one is more submissive, the energy wise. And so they took that story, you know, that verbal cue, and that's how they come up with, that's their artistic response, basically. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then for this photo,
I think you may have to reshare your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then let me reshare my screen. Okay, here. So for this, yeah, the one I talked about earlier was this one, the eagle and the rabbit. That's how we got the shot, is because I said that we imagine your animals, you know, and the eagle and the rabbit, and then how we do how we portray the different energies, and then how we occupy the space. So that's that. And then this photos, I actually got, I try not to look at lots of dance photos because I feel like if I look at lots of dance photos, then my work will be like everyone else. So I would look at like a fashion photographer's photos and see what they are doing, if something interesting that I could, you know, that could give me idea. So I saw this photographer, he had an interesting setup. Basically, he had two, those V flats, and then he would put them together, but only leave a little, you know, gap in between, and he would light through that. So I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting. So I invited Brent. At the time he was dancing with Body Box to the studio. And then I said, you know, Brent, I have this set up. I got to try, you know. But the story is, it's like an escape room. Actually, I never play escape room myself. I don't know how escape room is like. But the idea of this is like you're trying to escape. You only have this, a bit of the, you know, light, the little bit of light is like your hope, you know, it's the freedom, so you can escape. So I think it's really important that you say things to the dancers. They are amazing athletically, they can do lots of things, but then you need to give them things to work with so that the photograph, because I was telling him that, you know, since this you're escaping, the facial expression should be really tense, right? So things like that. So this is how we got this shot. Did I answer your question about stories?
Yeah, I definitely think you kind of, you know, elaborated on what inspires you. And I know we're, you know, coming to the end of our event, but I really quick just wanted to ask you. So I'm a former dancer, for people who don't know that. Jingzi and Jim do know that. I'm a former dancer, and there's so much that goes into dance photography, specifically the relationship between the photographer and the dancer. And so I was wondering if I could get your perspective, Jingzi, on, do you consider dancers artists, athletes, or actors, especially when you work with them and you're trying to tell a story through their artistic and athletic ability?
They are all of them. They are athletes, they are artists, they are actors. Really, they are doing the most difficult job. They just make it look really easy. So yeah, it is I think something really special about dancing, because if you see it, the difference is like when we're watching the Olympic Games, it's very clear. The person want to be the fattest, just want to get to the end line, as quick as possible, or jump with the highest. So it's very clear, But here, actually dance and how we express, how we show this art form mostly on stage is there's not, it is up for interpretation, and there's a room for imagination. And so there's a lot of acting involved. There are a lot of emotion involved. And the story is up to you as the audience to interpret. And then it has a lot to do with your, life experience. So it's an art form that requires lots of athleticism and acting. I think a good dancer is also definitely a good actor, because they have to evoke emotions from the audience.
Great, thank you for answering that.
So quick question about this photo that you have on screen. I believe that's Brent Lubert, is that correct?
Yes.
And I remember when Brent first stepped on stage at the Columbia Dance in Vancouver, Washington's Nutcracker as a kid, and his career has been remarkable. And I think they're with us today. I think Becky Moore was in the chat line, but they've done a remarkable work over the years with so many things. And it's great to see a kid mature into an adult who's doing all these amazing things with BodyVox. So I don't mind plugging the fact that BodyVox is, as I think Connie mentioned in the chat line, has performances this weekend for people who do want to get out and see some dance. Check their website and buy a ticket from any of our local favorites like BodyVox or Polaris or OBT or others. I don't mind plugging any of them because they've done such an amazing work with all these dancers, and especially the last couple of years that have been very tough for anybody who has no box office for one, and they're just starting up. So let's all go out and buy tickets somewhere soon. And I was really happy to see this photo. And I don't know if you have any others, but that one, I'm glad that will be in our on our YouTube, because I know for those that were unable to make it today, or we'll hear about this through our newsletter, but they'll want to come back like I will and see these photos again by watching this once we post it. And if you ever have an exhibit somewhere at a gallery, Jingzi, please let us know. It would be so wonderful to see these, not on my computer screen, but somewhere, somewhere physical. And it could be even in the auditorium of a theater or something that might have a pop-up exhibit. You kind of never know. So I think we're at the end of our time. I need to just say before people start to leave, we do have a China chat, a China Business Network on Zoom, 7 p.m. next week on the 24th, a tale of two port cities during the pandemic, with speakers from Tacoma and Port of Portland. So please register for that if you can. And keep April 21st open for another China chat. Actually, it'll be about Taiwan perspective with Chao-Ning Su. That announcement will go out soon, as well as the third of our Creative Professional series on April 29th, which will be a hybrid event, our first in-person event for China Council members at the Pacific Northwest College of Art, with some of their students attending as well. And that will feature filmmaker Ron Shang on a Friday movie matinee of film shorts that he's created. And the announcement about that will go out soon to Northwest China Council members. So keep an eye on our website for upcoming events. And with that, I think we're close to the end of the show. Mara, if there's anything else, please wrap it up. But I want to thank you as president of Northwest China Council for your talk today, Jings, and I look forward to seeing you in person somewhere, with or without camera, maybe at a dance performance somewhere. So we'll be in touch soon. And thank you everyone for attending today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.